to whom agrees. Greetings and salutations. The universe is just doomed, 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 doomed.
Welcome back.
It's us, Nicole.
And Tessa.
And Kim will be here.
She's incoming.
She's on her way. She's floating through the tube.
Right. We had to do this early today, so.
Yeah, I got to do I live way out in the wasteland now, so I had to do a turnaround trip today to record. And so we're in Tessa's garage, and you
will hear most likely.
The sounds of the city.
In the city.
So sorry in advance for all the engine noises you may or may not hear.
I live on a busy street and it's earlier in the day and people are still going
Friday
home
and
from
they're
work.
still rush hour. So we are getting into altered states.
Ooh, check your arm.
Which ironically, I am in the least altered state I've ever
been
in recording this podcast because I have to drive home.
Now I got to do twice as much for you.
Tessa's going to get twice as altered to make up for my lack thereof.
Into a fetus. I'm going to turn into Bilal.
Or whatever he was.
Right? I am the worm. I used the worm at the bottom of the tequila.
Mm-hmm. That's about what he looked like. Mm-hmm. So he being William Hurt as Eddie Jessup.
With his weird symmetrical face.
Yeah.
He's got a weird, I don't know.
And this was his film debut.
That's what it said.
I was
That's what it said.
Huh. I don't know why I thought he would have been in. I mean, he wasn't super young in this.
Maybe he was. He was just a 1980s young.
He was 25.
He's probably 21.
Oh my God.
Well, they're all, I don't know. That's what they say is that I'm 24 and I was 25 when I got my PhD. They're a bunch of weird, these people are weird people. These people are weird people.
Smart people.
It's like the Satanist parties, but without the Satan and with science instead.
Yeah.
But kind of still with Satan.
And still psychedelics.
A little bit.
Blair Brown as Emily Jessup.
Bob Balaban as Arthur Rosenberg.
Charles Haid as Mason Parrish.
Thaao Penghlis as Eccheverria.
Little Drew Barrymore as Margaret Jessup.
I know, which you blink and you miss her, really. She's adorable.
And I didn't write anyone else down, but I have John Larroquette in my mind because I messaged you I forgot John Larroquette's in this.
I have, what else do I have? I've got Dory Brenner as Sylvia Rosenberg, Jack Murdoch as Hector, Frank McCarthy as Obispo, Deborah Baltzel as schizophrenic patient. She's the one
the one they have all hooked up.
The one that's all ashen gray.
Yes.
Who was the other I did want to mention? Oh, Charles White Eagle as the Brujo.
Okay, the one who leads him on his journey.
And then yes, of course, I do have John Larroquette written down as the X-ray tech.
And Punky Brewster's legal guardian was in there for a beat right after John Larroquette. He takes his shit to the endocrinologist or no.
Oh, the X-ray, the actual reader,
the radiologist.
The radiologist.
And he's read this thing and he's like, this man's half gorilla or whatever. That was fucking Punky Brewster's guardian. Yeah, I think so. What was his name?
Mr. No, it was she called him by his first name. Oh fuck, what was
I just keep thinking Brandon.
I know, but that was the dog.
What was his name?
Was it Howard? Was it Harry?
We don't have a research
No,
assistant.
we don't when she gets here.
Know how to Google, so.
No, we don't. Well, my phone's all the way over there.
Oh, I have my phone.
Well, whatever. But yeah, that was all that I had as far as the cast. There was a bunch of people on this list, but
yeah, these are the main.
It was so-and-so's girl. Oh, Dr. Wishenshash.
Henry.
It started with an H.
Yeah.
Started with an H, yeah. Punky.
Yes. That's him.
Just found her lying around, took her home.
Yep.
Nobody asked any questions.
And so this, of course, is not streaming anywhere.
No.
As frequently happens with the show, with the movies we talk about.
Yeah, I just rented it on the YouTube.
And I actually own it on
found
DVD.
it.
I was like, wait a minute. let me go with my DVDs because they're in a cabinet, so it's like out of sight, out of mind. I don't automatically think go look at your DVDs. Oh, yours are in boxes.
All up there.
So yeah, it had been a very long time since I watched this.
Yeah.
Mostly all I remembered was Isolation Tank, Monkey Man, Worm Man, or whatever that is. Yeah, the bulgy arm.
Right. Ooh, there was an arm in the beginning and an arm at the end of the month. Isn't this the last one?
Oh,
of January?
the arm.
Yes.
The
arm. And now we got another arm, a weird arm. Oh.
The arm connection. Janu-Army.
Oh, were the other two? Now we're going to have to go back and think if the other two
were there
had anything
arm
to do with arms.
I don't remember. So this movie starts, and I was telling Tessa when I started my DVD, so most DVDs have like a menu screen, right? You pop them in, you see the little FBI warning, and then you sometimes get previews, shit you can't skip.
Right.
Eventually you get to a loading screen. And this one said it had features, so I was like, that'll be a thing.
Right.
So immediately after the FBI warning, we get close-up of William Hurt floating in a metal tube.
Yeah.
Slow zoom out, and I'm thinking, oh, they're going to use this. This is the loading screen. Like the thing's going to pop up. And it took a full couple minutes, however long it takes them to zoom out to where you see the guy Arthur in the observation room before I went, wait a minute.
Hold in a second.
It just started the movie.
Right. Nope.
So that is how the movie begins. That is not your loading screen if you have the DVD.
I was all like, I was sitting out here and I had all my stuff all set up and I was like, okay, I'm all ready. Like my bowl is packed and all that stuff and TV's on. And then I started it and like sat down because I was like all ready. And then I'm like,
there's like nothing to write for several minutes.
Floating in a tank for a while. And he really did this, I guess. A couple of them did the isolation tank thing. And he says, William Hurt says, that he actually hallucinated.
Did he say what he hallucinated?
It didn't say if he said or what he saw, but he said that he hallucinated.
Oh, interesting.
Blair Brown found it very calming.
One day when we get our isolation tank for 2, we'll find out.
Can I bring my friends?
So he's just floating around. He's got this big like glass bubble head thing on. And it's a weird, and the guy's saying when he's taking his notes, because you hear Arthur like taking notes, and he's talking about the tube and how it's unusual.
Weird, it's because it was vertical rather than lying down. that one in particular was a special kind of tank.
And so this is 1967 when we begin, and they are new grad students or something
like that, like research. I don't know.
It was kind of vague.
Right.
They probably specifically said, but there's so many large words used in this movie.
Right. We're just not smart enough to understand. Maybe they were like the Ghostbusters.
Right.
Like when the Ghostbusters were in college. Like maybe that's a reference I'm dumb enough to understand.
That I get. So yeah, there's some talk that there was some testing on some students using this method, and that some of them hallucinated. So this dude wants to do it
try
himself.
Right.
So he's like checking in with him. He's got a little headphone or whatever where he can hear him from outside, and he starts kind of panicking and is like, Arthur.
Right, but he like fell asleep. Wasn't Arthur like kind of asleep, or was
it? Seems like there was a few times when Arthur was supposed to be watching because he's there for hours.
This is, they say like 5 hours in. He's been there. He wants to see these EEGs.
Yeah, he hallucinated like a son of a bitch. So he wants to get out and look at them EEGs.
And it's a lot of like religious hallucinations. Like these are the things that he's seeing is all like.
Yeah, and he said at one point he talked to him and he was crying, said he was re-experiencing his father's death.
Right.
And all this stuff. And he's like, I want to do it again next week.
He's like, all right.
I guess.
And he's like, well, what are we doing here? Is what Arthur wants to know. Like, what is it that you just want to do it?
Fascinating stuff.
Right. He's like, I just want to fucking do it while we're here. They have access
to this tank.
Yeah,
we could try. Interesting.
Sure, why not? Like, it's fun. It's fun. I'm having fun. Aren't you having fun sitting there for 5 fucking hours?
Right. Watching
while I
me
hallucinate in a fucking tank
and sort of smile, and
looking at the
cry.
underside of my fucking balls from all these shots.
At least he wasn't totally nude in there.
Oh, thank goodness.
He
like
was at
straight up his
in the later
cornhole.
Ones, isn't he? Or he's just naked because
I think he's naked.
We do get to see him naked several times. We don't get any full frontal, but
there is a moment, I did write it down, where you can see his penis.
Oh, I missed. See, looking down, taking notes, looking up. Sometimes I miss the dick. Tessa got that dick dar. She zeroes in on it.
Dick dar to send those dick darts.
She looks up from her notes at the exact right moment every time.
It's my like spidey sense, but for dick.
Yeah. So cut to a party at Arthur's house.
Right.
And they're talking about Jessup, and he shows up and he introduces him to Emily.
Right. And this is the one that I was saying, it's like the Satanist, but with instead of Satan, it's like the Doors. Mm-hmm. And they're all smoking J's and talking shit.
Yep.
And like this entryway, there's a couple of shots like this where he's just standing in the hallway. Like,
yeah.
That's got to mean something, right?
I don't know.
That's got to mean something.
I just thought it was like, because he says that thing about he's shy and whatever. So I just thought it was him being standoffish and like,
yeah,
he's trying to stay away from people.
I don't know, but he's always darkening doorsteps and standing in doorways.
Well, they make it clear everybody thinks dude is a fucking weirdo.
They think he's a flake.
Yeah.
He's a flake.
He's a genius, but he's a flake. And the more you get to know him, there weren't words for it in 1980, but he's clearly on the spectrum.
Right.
He can't experience human emotion in the way most people experience human
but
emotion.
But he fucks like a madman.
We're going to get there quickly,
very soon.
Very
because
quickly.
at this party, some gal comes up.
She's an anthropologist,
a physical
PhD
anthropologist.
at 24.
Oh, that's pretty good. I didn't get mine till 25.
And I'm supposed to be some whatever
whiz kid. Like, I'm a cheese whiz kid. She's like, I'm a whiz kid too. Cheese whiz.
And he's talking about how he works with schizophrenics and talking about the religious, how they have a lot of religious hallucinations.
It's just another state of consciousness. They say it like twice. Actually, the second time they just say another state of consciousness, and they talk earlier about altered states of consciousness in like the first couple minutes, and then 2 minutes later she says this. I'm like, well, I guess that would have been egregious if they would have said it twice in like the same scene.
And so he likes her. So even though he's supposed to be this shy guy,
right?
And she says something about you don't like to talk about your work, and he's like, not
really.
as a rule. But then they leave the party together,
and he just is like telling her all of this stuff, and then like as he's telling her all of this stuff about how he's not even sure that mental illness is a disease, about all of these people have common religious experiences, and that's what he's doing here. He wants to know what the significance is. And also, I want to go home with you right now.
I like you, and I want to go home with you.
Right.
So, all right. Sweaty
She's like, but I have a
And
roommate. He was like, no, we could just do it on your couch. It's cool.
And so they go, and now, what, you sleep on the couch normally? You're not allowed, your roommate's in your room?
Maybe she rents the couch?
But like a literal, like, yeah. Because I'm like, why can't, she's not in a bedroom or a bed there?
I don't know. She's too busy anthropologizing. She has to anthropologize. There we go. Got it.
And why do they fuck in front of this space
heater?
Why
did it
They're
didn't
clearly
seem like
hot.
It was winter time. I know we have that like 1980s hot, sweaty, just like slick
dripping
sex. Like for what?
Like I'm surprised one of them didn't just slip off the other one onto the floor. It's just like lubed up,
like baby oil on silk sheets. Just whoop.
But like mid bang, he starts thinking about crucifixions.
I know, and tells her this.
And she's like, oh,
do you normally experience religious fervor during sexual encounters?
And he's like, oh, no, I used to have religious visions, but they stopped when I was 16.
Right, because, and she was like, well, were your parents religious?
Nope,
like, no,
not at all.
Engineer and a psychiatrist.
And we never really get back to, in all of his quest for knowledge, that's not part of his question, is why did he have religious visions to begin with?
Maybe he suspects that he's schizophrenic, and that's why.
And that's his interest in it. That would make sense.
I don't know.
But he doesn't. Well, I'm not going to say he doesn't seem schizophrenic. I have no idea.
I would have no
I'm sure,
idea. Yeah, I am not qualified to make that determination
in different ways.
Sure.
But yeah, he seemed to think there was maybe some connection with.
I know,
that.
and he just is like, the purpose of our suffering is just more suffering. Like, this is a really hot first date.
Seriously, like, we went from talking about schizophrenics to fucking in front of the space heater.
And then I had a religious vision.
Talking about how your visions
my dick in you
stopped because your dad died of cancer terribly.
Right.
And he said the word terrible. This is the guy who was introduced as the shy guy,
right? But she's like Arthur was right. You're a fascinating bastard. Is that not what he said?
Something like that, yeah. And he's fascinating,
fascinating, and apparently again, fucks like a son of a bitch.
He must, because she comes back for Mo,
right? She can't get away.
No,
she can't give it up. She's got to have it.
And this is the one where I have the note when he's back in the tank that Arthur falls asleep.
Oh, okay.
And so he's in there
because he's hearing whispers and sees himself above the clouds. And is this where it looks like they do where they mirror your face?
Oh, really?
And do it one way and then the other? Because his face looks oddly different, but I could be wrong.
I don't know.
I don't know. Because he just has a really symmetrical face and you can't really tell.
So he's envisioning himself up in the clouds, but surrounded by swimming fish.
Right.
And then his father dying in flames and Jesus burning and a many-eyed goat man crucified.
Right.
He goes.
And this is where it's very clear it's a Ken Russell movie because he does this in every single...
The many-eyed goat and the
not the many-eyed goat, but just the psychedelic freak out.
Oh, okay.
In every single one. Every single one. The Devils, Lair of the White Worm.
Oh, see, and this one I used to get confused with Lair of the White Worm only because it has the word worm.
Oh yeah, and he's kind of a worm.
And he turns in, and in my brain I was like, which movie is it where someone actually though turns into a worm? And it was in the title, so sometimes I would think it was that one. But I didn't realize even that it was the same dude.
It's the same dude, but yeah, then this many-eyed goat is crucified, but then they
it turns into a regular goat.
Yeah.
But with many eyes still.
Right. And then it bleeds all over this book. And then he's having these visions of
fucking Emily on a big rock.
Is it just regular fucking, or it didn't look like she was
very
into
violent.
It looked kind of rapey to me.
It sure did.
And goats' heads and all kinds of shit and
then it just cuts to a girl hooked up to some monitors.
Right. In the examination room, Emily comes in. She's like, hey, when good news.
She doesn't even work in the same department. She's allowed to just come into this lab where they're working with a patient and just
I don't know.
Have a casual chat.
She's also a doctor. I don't know. I don't know what kind of rules they got over there. I don't know what kind of rules they had in 1967.
No. And so she's like, I got a new job. We're both going to be teaching at Harvard.
So let's get married. I think we should get married. He's like,
haven't you heard I'm supposed to be a little bit crazy?
No, that's what I like about you. Even she mentions even the sex.
Yeah.
Is a religious experience. I don't feel like it's what is it? A mad monk being harpooned like a mad monk in the act of receiving God.
I don't know.
That's what she says. It's girl, calm down.
Wow.
Calm down.
Wow.
So she's like, well, that's why I want to put a ring on it. No wonder.
And she's like, if things don't work out and whatever, we'll split up.
Yeah.
So he goes in, he changes the subject and goes to check on the patient.
He always does. Mm-hmm. Every time she talks about love or a relationship or what they need to be doing, he changes the subject to what his work is.
Yeah. So he goes in to check on this girl and talk to her about, because they gave her some hallucinogens or they.
Right. She's going to trip balls for half an hour.
And she feels like her heart's being touched by Christ.
Right. And I guess it's because she's a schizophrenic that they're getting her high.
I guess so.
To see what she says.
Apparently, to see what she sees. See what it does. Yeah.
I guess. So, yeah, she feels and she's a little, why is she so but they've been giving her colloidal silver.
Right. Because at first, because she was on a monitor, it was oh, okay, it's a black and white monitor. But then in the room, she still looked like she was in black and white.
Is that what it does to you? It makes you like a Smurf?
I don't know. So he's like, all right. He goes back and tells Emily, fine, if it's that important to you.
Right. We'll go ahead and get married.
We'll just
whatever.
Get married. And he does say some nice things, but he's very
I don't
casual
know
about.
I mean, I guess she seems to understand what she's getting into.
She does. They've only been seeing each other for 2 months, so this shit gets old quick.
Well, that's true. And she did say she's 24 and he's I don't know.
He doesn't really say how much older he's supposed to be, but not a ton.
But she's making a 24-year-old's decision. And I mean, this is all great and fine, but 2 kids later.
Yeah, years. So this is 7 years later-ish, I think.
Sure.
Because they say something when they meet up with Arthur about it's been 7 years since we moved. So it's been at least 7 years.
Right.
So yeah, she's hanging out the window looking worried.
Right. And
watching him walk down the street all fine and happy with their kids.
Capable of
that's what I wonder.
there with the kids.
Like, why does she look all concerned?
And I don't know why she looks all concerned, because they do not give one shit about these children for the rest of the fucking movie.
They're barely in it. They're in it they
don't even barely until the very, very end. The Lion, the Witch, and the audacity of this bitch to be like, oh God, I hope it's not the kids. Like, how long has it been since you fucking seen them? Where are they?
And then she took the kids to Africa for a year.
I know, she was hoping that they'd get eaten by some.
We're going to take our chances.
But nothing would eat adorable little Drew Barrymore. She's too cute. She's too cute.
He comes home with, was that Mason that was with him? Or is that just a neighbor who was with him?
I thought that was Arthur, because...
Well, no, so Arthur's there too, but the dude who comes up to them and picks the kid up and throws her in the air.
Probably Mason.
Okay. And then, so they go inside. It's Arthur and his wife, and she's pregnant again.
Right. And Jessup's going to Mexico to do hallucinogens with a tribe down there, and she's going to Africa.
Yeah, so she comes, Arthur's wife comes whispering to him, oh my God, they're getting
a divorce.
And he's like,
what? Told me. He's like, what are you talking about?
He's like, everybody seems all happy. And he's like, no. And it's his idea. So it's not because she's scared he's a fucking freak and he's going to hurt their kids.
She's in love with him.
Yeah.
That's what she even says.
She's just done.
She's still crazy about him, but he's just done.
They tried it. It's not for him.
Right. So when she's going to Africa. She's moving to a furnished place in Cambridge, because that's what smart people do.
Yes.
And once he gets back from Mexico, that's it.
That's
out.
it. Yeah. He's done.
He's like, well, then Arthur goes to talk to him, what the fuck?
Right. And he's just, again, very cash about it.
Right. He was like, oh, we probably won't get around to the divorce until, I don't know.
And Arthur's like, you have everything, a beautiful wife, beautiful children, a great job. And he's like, oh, is that how you see it? Is that how you see me?
Yeah.
I'm not doing important work. This is all meaningless. You don't he basically says he doesn't understand love.
And that's, once again, the choices that she makes and the choices that he make are fine without bringing kids into this situation.
Right. So now, and because if he can't understand love, how is he going to love his daughters?
Right.
I mean, he seems to like them, okay?
Right. He doesn't seem to hate them,
a
but
bad
he doesn't
dad.
really think about them at all.
And so he just needs to get rid of all this clutter out of his life so that he can get back to the important stuff.
The important work. And is this where he tells him that where he's going to be, or no, that he tells him about where he's going and what he's doing, right?
I know they go out to dinner and there's a lot of chatter. Right. I could not keep up.
There's all of this,
there's
frankly,
5 conversations happening.
And he's hollering. Apparently that was what the author
why he didn't like this.
Patty Chayefsky.
I have to look at it again. I have it in my notes somewhere.
The author of the book disowned this movie, even though it was verbatim to his screenplay. But because everybody was hollering, he probably is
this
a
is
science
a scene where everyone was hollering sciencey things.
That's what I'm saying. He's probably a science person that thinks about this shit and was all... You can't
these were important conversations that were laid out in the book.
I know that I specifically wanted said a certain way. I don't know. Maybe that was the thing. But frankly, it's irritating to hear this. He seems like an asshole.
I just tuned out a lot of it until he started talking about, our true selves. I'm going to go
over here having my drink. There he
I
go
think
again.
It's a physical thing that you can find, and I'm going to find the fucker. That's why he's going to Mexico.
It's a thing with the original self, the one and true self, the whatever the fuck that is. He's wild.
So cut to him hiking up a mountain in Mexico with Eccheverria.
Yes, and here they're talking about the mushrooms are
the first flower, I guess the tribe
the mushrooms
calls it.
they're probably a little dangerous, they're whatever, but the Hinchi plant is highly regarded. And it evokes old memories, even ancient memories, which of course he's like, oh, word, let me get in on that.
And the dude's like, all right,
well, let me see. I'll talk to him, but
yeah. And the guy was right away,
Brujo's sure. Sure, why not? White man from town wants to fucking get high.
And he starts asking all these questions about what's going to happen. He's like, his soul will be turned to the first soul. He will go to the void, see a spark and a crack, and out of the nothing will come his unborn soul.
Right. And that's exactly what he's fucking looking for.
Which is not exactly what happens.
No,
there's
it's really
elements
not.
of this, but he
Not
doesn't find his
that.
unborn soul, I don't think.
Is that what the worm is?
Maybe he's just like
He's just
a blob,
He's a
molecule. Maybe. So now they're starting their ritual in the cave, and all the dudes that got their like
it's ritual
mud
time
makeup or whatever that is, like chop.
Right, there's a lot of people that live out here.
A lot of old dudes.
There's a lot of old men in this particular
Tripping
part
in the fucking...
of Mexico. Yeah, tripping in this particular part of Mexico. The Hinchi.
Hinchi Indians, I believe. Indians? And so they're putting all the shit in the pot, cooking up,
and they're like passing that little. They
first
cut
they
up.
grab and
Is
between
that
the fingers.
That's the crack, girl.
That's the crack that his soul's coming out of.
Right? I mean,
they had to
sparks
make a crack.
come out of it earlier or later.
So they like slice him between the fingers without warning him, and
and pour
a
his
bunch
blood.
of his blood into this soup.
And is that a thing that happens normally? Like I would have
know.
asked
Who
my
normally
homeboy
donates
over there,
the blood?
and like. If you're going down to Mexico to ask a bunch of fucking questions and to get all up in their thing, like, understand at least a little bit of conversational Spanish.
Right? Like, you have absolutely
something.
no idea what they're saying.
You need this guy to be all up in your Kool-Aid, like he says this was.
Right.
Like, while the guy's trying to talk to you.
So while they start passing the spoon around, he goes and gets his hand bandaged up.
Passing the spoon upon the left-hand side.
Yes. Pass the spoon upon the left-hand side. And he goes back for his spoonful, and he turns around, and they're like not by the pot anymore. They have a like second fire.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna hang out over here and watch you trip balls."
Exactly. They don't guide him. Isn't that part of the whole thing? Like when you do something like that with a tribe, like is that not part of the thing? Is that you're gonna guide your not your meditation, but your like hallucination or whatever. Sure. But they're like, haha, fuck this dude.
Right?
They're like, we can tell we know what kind of guy this guy is.
We know what you are.
There's just, okay, smarty pants.
Yeah, white man from town. Go right ahead.
Have some extra.
Ahead.
So he
with blood in it.
It hits him like immediately.
Oh yeah, it's like like he starts getting all
sparks are flying.
I know, and they have a fucking fireworks show at this thing. Like, is this fireworks show really happening?
I don't
and a dance number?
I know. I have no idea what's really happening. So yeah, there's sparks. He sees a lizard. He sees visions of like Emily and him like on this, I don't know, Mary Poppins get up kind of.
Yes, that's exactly what I fucking wrote. They're dressed up like Mary Poppins and Bert. They're like in poppy fields, like eating some sorbet or some shit. And like now, the rock that the tribe is dancing around, it takes off like a fucking rocket with a very noticeable cable. Did you see it? Because I did.
The cable. No,
it was like on a little, like Ed Wood.
Oh, how funny. And he's like imagining kissing his wife, but at the same time being like smothered by a snake. Right. So like, is that the message? Like
the snake up in the
she's smothering
umbrella
him
or whatever. Then they go walking towards an A-bomb.
And he rips off his bandage and those sparks start coming out of his crack. And he starts laughing.
Right. And like this lizard shows up and then like a lizard comes out the crack.
But then it turns into his naked
lizard,
wife.
And then like she looks like the Southern Oracle.
Yeah, she's laid like on her belly.
Whatever,
but like,
then when she turns to sand.
Yeah, they both turn to sand. They get blown. Sand
and it
blows
takes
over
for
them.
Fucking ever. I was
That's
like,
a long
whoever
shot.
did this, Dick Smith, was like, nah, motherfuckers, we made this shit. You are gonna watch it blow the fuck away.
We can't have anyone confused that they're still under that sand
get
somewhere.
One shot
at
all of this.
And where we at? Oh yeah, so they blow away, and then he wakes up. There's this gutted lizard,
right?
Big old Komodo dragon on the ground.
Apparently, the tribe is not pleased that he's going around tearing up their fucking lizards.
And it doesn't show him kill it, and he doesn't remember killing it. So I don't know what he did, but he sliced up the whole belly, and he didn't have a knife. So,
well, considering what happens later,
yeah. So who knows? But so they kind of kick him out or whatever, but they let him take
they
some drugs
like
with him.
make him leave, but yet they're willing to let slip some of this shit that he's now going to smuggle back to Boston
to have analyzed, quote
right,
unquote.
and maybe synthesize. He's going to have Arthur cook him up some synthetic Hinchi flour,
right? So I guess before, we can go a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's cool.
So flames, screaming,
the
images
side of my
hell.
face.
He's back in the tank.
I do love these Ken Russell like the spectacle,
the
like
imagery. I mean, it's all really cool. Like I don't know if we should slow down and be more descriptive of that, but I feel like it's such a visual medium. You can't
like
really,
it's one of those things you kind of have to
me
see.
yelling lizard, woman, sex. You know, like it's not going to give the same.
Those tarot cards that we got from Shauna's mom.
Yes.
Like one of the sets that we got, I feel like looks a lot like the backgrounds on some of these. Like if you layered them together, that's what it would look like. It's my Ken Russell tarot card set. It's kind of a celebrity set. That's my new collection.
There you go. So Mason, who I guess he's just yet another
he's
peer
just another
scientist guy.
Right, it's another scientist guy that they know, but he's like skeptical.
He does not approve
of all of their shit.
Doings.
He was like, I gave you all the rats you could cut up. I did all this shit for you. And that's about as much as I want to be implicated in secret drug-taking hallucinogen.
But Jessup's all excited because he found a new isolation tank and he wants to do these
like,
drugs combined.
We got one here. He was like, I need to get over that fucking... He was like, there's all this acceleration and I don't get beyond what that is. And in order to break the barrier, I got to do that isolation tank with the maximum amount of this shit that I could take.
And Mason's like, I don't want anything to do with your crap. Cut to Mason having everything to do with their crap.
He was like, they're like, I know you couldn't stay away. He was like, I have to be up in that bullshit. You know Mason's not going to miss it.
So they're all in the lab. They got their hands on this isolation tank.
It's smaller. January 7th.
Oh, is that what it says?
It says January 7th, Wednesday, January 7th, 4:28 p.m. But yeah, they do say it's smaller and it's horizontal rather than vertical, not like the one that's there, but it works and everything is copacetic.
So they put him in and he starts like right away
grasslands, savannas, mountains, smoking, Cenozoic, intertertiary. I'm alive. The birth of man. There it is.
A proto-human, 4 feet high and chimp-like. There's 2 or 3 of them hunting something.
Right. I'm becoming one of them. I'm killing. I'm eating a goat. And like Parrish is all, you all right in there?
Right? He goes to check on him and he's like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Right. Because Arthur's like, I guess he could bring him down I could bring you down at any time. And he was like, nah, man, I want to keep going.
No, yeah. He wants to stay in there.
Right. So now he was like, do you want us to leave you alone?
And and he says, yeah.
Right.
So and they hear these growling.
They're like, what the fuck was that shit?
And they ask him again. He's like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And then he gets quiet.
He's like, I'm beautiful. Leave me alone. And that's what it is. So now they come back from getting food at like 8:45.
And they open it up and he's got blood all around his mouth.
Like all,
he can't speak.
He's got lockjawed. He's freaking out.
All over his face or something.
He's got like, I would imagine they put like.
Well, he was in salt water, so I'm guessing it was maybe from that.
But I also imagine that like when people swim, like when so-and-so swum the English Channel, they put like grease all over themselves so they don't get all pruny and desiccated.
Maybe.
So maybe that's why, because he's in there for hours.
And so he wants them for him to write. So he's writing down like something about a blood sample.
Inspect your neck.
I want pics of my neck.
I want, X-ray. I want all of this stuff. Like, do it now before I reconstitute.
And you're like,
what?
Excuse me.
Mason's like, stop talking shit.
He's like, his hallucination has materialized.
Yeah, like he's
externalized. Like, you're a sick fuck.
Externalized a hallucination. Like he became that.
And he's like, oh, well, fine. Then let's go do a full exam.
Sure,
but then why does he burn?
I know.
That bloody rag.
And then isn't he the one that suggests that like, oh, but then he'll just say that the blood on his face was, if we test it, it'll be the blood of a goat and not his blood. It's not his blood.
But he doesn't even give them the opportunity to do that. And if he's the one who doesn't
he mentions it after the fact.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
It was a weird...
Yeah, it was a weird move.
Yeah.
There's probably an explanation
I think he probably did sort of buy it a little bit, and he didn't want to know.
The implications of what it could mean.
He couldn't handle it,
the truth?
It being a goat. Yeah, couldn't handle it being goat blood.
I guess so. So, yeah, he's like, it's a transient ischemic attack. A TIA.
Yeah, he thinks he just had like a seizure.
Right, like you had like a stroke or something, like a mini stroke. Some shit happened to you. But they're all looking at that X-ray.
So they take him to get x-rayed by John Larroquette.
Yeah. Who's backed up in the ass.
And he's backed up in
That's
the ass.
what he says, like I'm backed up.
Backed up in the ass.
Right, or something like that.
And Arthur brings up the goat blood, and the other guy is like, that's when he's like, no.
Right,
He just had a seizure or something.
Yeah.
It's nothing. So the x-ray comes back, and Jessup can suddenly speak again.
He's calmed down. He's reconstituted.
And he's saying, look, there's signs of my regression in that x-ray. And they're like, let's take it to someone who actually knows.
We don't know how to read x-ray. And then they have like a whole scuffle and a scruffle. And Parrish is like, why would he even take that shit to why didn't he just get rid of that shit too?
I don't know. So but he does. He takes it to Punky Brewster's dad.
Punky.
And he's like, this guy's a fucking gorilla.
Yeah.
He's
and
like,
he was
that's
like
a monkey neck.
That's a monkey neck.
So
this man has a monkey neck.
Speaking of monkey neck, not really speaking of monkey necks, before we find out more about his monkey neck, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
And we're back.
We're back, and Kim has gotten here.
She's arrived.
She has come.
And she came bearing gifts.
She did.
We got mail. We'll talk about at the end.
Yes, it's fantastic.
We got some great mail.
Fantastic.
Okay, so we're at Jessup's in bed with some young student.
Right, he's running his crazy dick game on some
Yes, he sure is.
And like she's still like, it's so crazy. She still calls him Dr. Jessup.
Yes. I'm like, did he insist upon that,
probably.
Or that's your choice?
Nope, that's probably her choice.
She still feels so awkward and uncomfortable.
She didn't seem to be doing it under duress. She seemed to be doing it very casually. That's just what she calls him.
And he gets some weird shit happening to his arm, and then like traveling up his torso. He gets like all
like he wakes up in
I don't
pain.
know how you describe it.
Yeah, like he's writhing.
Yeah, he's like,
and she has no idea. Like
no, she doesn't know what's going on.
No.
He runs to the bathroom to check himself, and he like gets caveman
before
brow.
he wrecks himself.
Yes, too late.
Lest he wreck himself, but yes, it's too late. He's wrecked.
He gets in the shower and looks down, and he got
monkey feet.
Did monkey have 6 toes? Because he had an extra toe.
He had an extra toe. It was like a prehensile toe.
Did we used to have 6? Because he had his full set of toes, and then that thumb toe.
I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not a physical anthropologist.
His wife would know.
She would know, and she does know.
And then it's just gone like that. He gets rinsed off, and it's like, oh, he's just hallucinating.
Oh, I feel better. But then he opens the door, and it's
hell. Yes. And the girl turns the light on, like,
homegirl's
Dr.
like,
Jessup?
Are you okay?
And he's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm good. And he goes to write it down. And then his arm starts again, and he looks all fucking happy about it.
I'm going to write about my rippling arm. It's got ruffles have ridges.
Bubbles. Ugh.
And this is, again, Dick Smith. Dick Smith?
Is that who does the effects?
Did his Dick Smithery.
So he goes to pick up Emily and the kids. It's apparently been like a year.
Yeah.
She's been in Africa with the kids.
She took the kids to Africa to do some sort of...
No lions ate them, much to her
dismay. Yes. Dingo did not eat her baby.
Nope. And she starts telling him about carnivorous baboons.
She seems to be kind of a little surprised that he has shown up to pick them up.
Possibly, yeah.
A little. She was like, oh, hey.
Like, how did he even know we were here? I didn't tell him.
Who told him?
And he's immediately like all about these baboon sounds.
He was like, so did you hear?
Yeah. Do you have any recordings
of what they sounded like? Because
I want to hear them.
I want to hear that. I'm very interested in hearing all of that.
And she's like, oh, by the way, Mason wrote me a letter.
Sure.
About you getting high off your fucking ass and genetically regressing.
Him. Right. He was like, she's like, you got like lymphoma or leukemia or some shit.
It's not cancer. It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
And
he
she's
was like, we put it in a bunch of rats. It's fine.
She wants to see the data.
Do you want to see my database? I'll show it to
you, sure
girl.
Does.
So yeah, she like, and no, but she even mentioned, she was like, oh yeah. And there was like that blood test that you did that showed simian blood.
Yes. So they haven't let him back in the tank. It's been 3 months, he says, since that happened.
Like, no, we're good.
And they're like, no, you're good. We're not getting
sued.
Yes.
By somebody.
And he tells her, yeah, like I became a more primitive version of myself and I'm sick of everyone fucking patronizing me. I want to get back in this goddamn tank.
I know. And I made some noises that I'm betting sounds like them baboon noises that you were talking about, because she was like, yeah, they like ate a gazelle.
Yeah, she's like, they could be carnivorous. And
right.
He's all,
yeah, I know
all about that.
I did that.
Because I ate a goat.
I did.
So he's like, look, I need your help to externalize consciousness.
His body was wet with goat meat.
Goat meat.
Greasy, wet with goat meat.
So it's back to tank time.
Right? It's tank time again. They're like, yeah, let's go.
He's all alone.
Oh, that's
putting
right.
himself in the tank.
This is a poor decision.
And Mason calls Emily and she's like, yeah, I think you're right. I think he's on the verge of a breakdown.
Sure, but I just can't. That dick game too crazy.
She can't. Well, wait till she sees monkey dick.
You know what? I didn't see any monkey dick.
I have a note because
monkey balls.
They heavily haired the crotch area.
The balls, and I was like, look at that silhouette of the monkey balls.
It was like
not
the thickest merkin I have ever seen. Monkey merkin.
Monkey merkin.
He had that munkin on.
Not a munkin, girl. Come on.
And so, speaking of which, the tank opens and this hairy arm appears. And the caretaker wakes up and finds this dude's clothes on a chair. Yeah, he was napping
he's like,
too.
Wait a minute, did you hear that? I heard that. So he goes and he finds like everything's cool, but there's clothes on a chair and it's all weird and someone's in that tank. So he goes to open that door and
the missing link jumps out and runs off and then turns around and chases him. Like, he can't decide. Is he scared? What's he going to do?
Like his little freak.
So he goes, locks his door, calls security. There's an animal loose. There's like a monkey in here. I don't know what's going on.
The other guy, he goes to get the other guy and the other guy's like, well, I guess I'll get a stick. Well, because it's like a medical lab. So maybe.
And they're in the basement.
Sure. They're like, yeah, it's probably like one of them apes got loose that they've been cutting up in there and putting electrodes on. So probably pissed.
He the monkey man pulls himself up in the pipes.
Yes, gets up in the pipes. And I know it's probably not a well-lit basement laboratory, but you don't have a flashlight. You ain't got nothing but a fucking stick. And there is an ape loose, an aggressive, screeching,
underestimating the
ape running loose in here. I'm not going down there. You don't pay me enough to fucking find an ape in the pipes down here.
And so he, of course, immediately jumps down on this dude's head and almost beats him to death, or does beat him to death.
He thought he did.
Yeah. And the other man sees that, runs off. And he gets
clocked in the back of the head.
Yeah, just as the cops arrive or the other security guards or whatever.
Because somebody calls.
So Monkey Man runs down the alley, sees these wild dogs, gets spooked up the fire escape.
Right, goes running around, beats another dog, gets up on the car.
Gets into the zoo. He's in the rhino pen and the elephant habitat.
I don't know how he got there.
I don't know. It was just right there, apparently.
Did he smell the zoo and went that way?
He needed water from the elephant's water.
Well, he was very thirsty. First, he sees the rhino and he's got a rock. He's like, I don't think that's going to work. So then he jumps the fence and gets some water with the elephants.
And then he goes and he sees that raw meat laying out in the tiger cage.
Let me get a little bit of that too.
Tiger's like, right,
no, that's mine.
So now he finds the deer, or what were they? Sheep
they were
or something?
Goats. There were goat sheep.
The
clearly.
goats.
Why were they having so many of them in the zoo? Do they feed those? Are they?
I know there was
goats?
a lot of them.
Are those feeder goats? They don't want to be fed.
They are now.
They want to hunt.
And he goes to get in their fence, and it's electric fence.
Don't whiz on it.
Don't whiz on the electric
fence.
On
the electric fence.
So he climbs a tree, gets over it, hits one in the head with a rock, and just fucking eats it raw.
I know. I don't even know. We did not talk about these blue eyes on this creature.
And it's clearly not William Hurt because he's smaller
and little and spry.
And he don't got that swinging dick, so it's not.
Oh yeah, where did I have that written down that you see his penis?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I didn't never see the dick.
Maybe it's
because he's naked again in later.
Maybe in
the
a little
movie,
bit. Maybe it's coming up. I don't know. Look behind you.
But yeah, they end up finding him naked, Jessup passed out next to this
and
goat.
This eviscerated goat. The night watchman comes, and when you see him again, it's him. Mm-hmm. It's not Monkey Man's.
So he gets arrested.
He's gonna get brain worms that way.
I know. Don't be eating fucking goat meat.
In the Boston Zoo, it's not even like a free range.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what they got?
Yeah, I don't know.
So Emily and Mason come and bail him out of jail, and he's talking about he only remembers fragments.
But he remembers what happens as this primitive thing remembers things.
Right. He only had a primitive consciousness, so he can only comprehend what that guy could comprehend.
But that guy.
He remembers the dogs. He remembers eating the sheep.
It was supremely satisfying.
The most supremely satisfying. Now remember this. It was the most supremely satisfying moment of his life. He has 2 children. He has a wife. He doesn't care about any of that shit.
Nope,
Eating this goat raw
was the best thing that's ever
the best
happened
thing that's
to him.
ever
Being
happened to
Monkey
him.
Man was the awesome. And also BT Dubs. I killed a man last night.
Oh, yeah. By the way, I think I might have killed a security guard.
No, he says he killed a man.
Just killed a man, yeah.
When Mason shows up, he's like, he almost was killed.
Yeah, says that they said an ape was loose in the lab.
Yeah, they want you to call the lab.
By the way, was running around
did you take an ape down there last night, Eddie?
And so Emily's like, look, tell him what you told me. So
I know, her face, she's like, oh.
So Emily goes back to listen to the tapes and look at his x-rays and is like, oh, shit.
Right, and then she hears the ape noises. And it's
like,
oh.
So that night, she dreams about him as the Jessup or whatever.
The
Jessup.
Jessup.
She wakes up and calls Eddie in a wild panic. Like, I have a gut feeling you didn't imagine this.
She's terrified.
I need you to stop. I love you.
Right.
And he's like, I know.
Can you come over? I don't want to be alone tonight.
Yeah. So she asked him to stay the night.
And so, he changes the subject every single time she brings this shit up. Like, I just need.
All he wants is to eat some fucking raw goats,
He just
ma'am.
wants to eat raw meat.
So cut to Emily knocking on the lab door, and Jessup, Mason, and Arthur are already inside setting up for another go.
Right, because she's like, I don't want you to do it because I believe that.
Right, because
this whole
it's
thing
true.
Is happening. So then she's like, they're like, you keep saying if this happens.
Like, we're pretty sure it's going to happen.
There was Monkey Man riding around, and we know that we picked him up naked like a werewolf.
Yep.
Naked like a werewolf.
So this time they video monitor inside of the isolation tank. So they get him all hooked up and they have him on a monitor.
And they're real chill. Like, Emily was right. Like, maybe you should be a little more on guard.
Yeah, Emily's like, we could be fucking with his genetic structure. Like, maybe we shouldn't do this. But too late. He's already drugged and in there.
Oh, yeah. And he starts
screaming and changing. And then, like, videos, like, glitching.
Sure. And he gets all, like, transmorgified.
And Mason goes to open the tank and sedate him. And he gets just, like, blasted out against
with, like,
the
this
wall.
white light.
And Arthur's knocked out.
Right. And then, she tries to get in there. And I thought they were dead.
I know. Because they're all 3 knocked out at a certain point.
Yeah. Like, Emily tries to approach the tank. And it lights up. And she, like, sees
through
him in
it,
there looking like
pulsating.
Belial.
Like a pulsating Belial.
And it, like, explodes. And it's too bright for her. And, like, she can't get in there. And it's like a vortex and a whirlpool.
Yeah, the fire sprinklers come on, but it fills a whole whirlpool
the whole
of water.
tank explodes. It's gone.
And the heat is like super intense, and his worm screams of agony like bust the. He has like telekinetic worm screams.
And
I don't know.
It's like another Russell hallucination scene where there's like tubes and jizz and like the backs of eyeballs and womb noises and all of this
cells
kinds
and
of shit and
all
it's
kinds
like,
of shit.
It reminds me of there was like this book that my aunt and uncle had. It was like a photography book, and I think it was like Time Life, but it was like those really close-up pictures of like conception. Eggs and fetuses.
There was definitely a lot of that,
like that. And I looked at that book so many times because it was fascinating, and that's what this reminds me.
Very much so. The formation of life, basically. He's like watching that. So Emily reaches out and pulls him out of the void, and he looks totally normal.
Yeah.
Everybody wakes up.
Yeah.
They carry him home, put him to bed.
Nobody else is dead. It's fine. They take him back. They examine him back at their apartment. And they, in that bathroom, that stained glass looks like the visions that he was having.
Oh, I did not even notice it, no.
They were like flowers or something, but they were very Eye of Sauron.
Okay.
Like with the little black piece inside with like a poppy type of thing where it was like orange and yellow. And like
no,
really
I did
bright.
not even notice.
I thought it was cool. But like if you were seeing that shit every day.
Right.
Is that a hallucination or is that just your brain?
Right. Just putting the image
things.
into different. Yeah, totally. So what happened tonight is he got off with God.
Yeah.
And it almost destroyed him.
Yeah.
And Mason gets her something for shock. And Eddie's in there listening.
She's going into shock because it's too much. And where are your children?
Yeah, who knows where the kids are? They were not present for any of this. And Eddie's sitting there listening to them argue about whether it was real or not.
Right.
And Arthur's like, we need to test this on someone else.
Yeah.
Like and Emily's like, she goes to check on him and has Mason check him out, whatever. And then she goes to sleep naked in a chair.
I know, just in case he wants to fuck her in the night.
Like, I could not figure out who falls asleep naked in a chair with a blanket.
Just in case.
And then he's also
Should you
naked.
Need it? Should you need me? I know.
And so he's like,
these
she's in
people.
And these other two dudes, are they still in their house?
I don't know what's happening. They're
naked?
like, she was just doing it just in case.
And so he goes over, he wakes up and goes and covers her up and kind of like naked sleeps on the floor next to her or whatever.
I don't know. Like when she sees him, she like immediately kisses his ass and like, oh, you're so amazing. And then again, after she kisses his ass, she goes to sleep naked in the room just in case.
Just in case.
And then when they wake up, the phone rings. She's like, oh God, I hope it's not the kids.
Yeah. Like,
oh, I'm sorry.
You're like 7 and 4-year-old or whatever they are.
You've left who knows where.
Lord knows.
So these are all the people you fucking know.
And it's not the kids. It's Arthur just checking up.
Right. And she was like, well, and he's fine. Like what? And then after that, she was like, we're fine. And then she goes, I guess I should call the kids.
Yeah. And then Eddie suddenly gets all sentimental.
Yeah. Like how much she means
saved
to him. You redeemed me.
The final truth is there is no final truth.
But the terror that threatens to consume me, the only thing that's stopping it is you. It's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
Come on.
And then she sees his arm bubbling.
Yeah, and she's like, no, defy it,
yeah,
Eddie.
She's like, you made it real. Make it unreal.
Make it unreal. If you love me, defy it.
And when he reaches out and they touch hands, she turns her to
into
lava?
Lava girl?
Lava girl? Or
Neon
Shark Boy?
Lava girl. She's like sitting there like, oh.
Yeah, and so she's like burning alive or something. Yeah. And he's like the worm man. And then he's staticky.
Like slamming back and forth to like defy
bang
it, I guess.
Yeah, to bang the worm
out of him.
Yeah.
You got to bang the worm out every once in a while when you're jorking your peanuts. You got to bang that worm out.
He needs Cher to come give him a good snap out of it.
I fucking wrote that.
And he finally does. Yes. But she's still lava.
Yeah, and he was like, oh no, I don't know what to do. You're over there like, oh.
And he hugs her and they turn into a big ball of light and then back into themselves. And then he finally tells her that he loves her.
Yeah, that's all it took.
So you guys, even though the most supremely satisfying thing that had ever happened in his life was to eat that raw goat, turns out
he might want to eat that raw pussy.
he loved a pussy.
He's apparently that was the crack he was looking for.
I just don't understand, like,
that was the crack he was looking for at the end because you could see her butt crack. That was the crack he was looking for where all life begins.
Yeah. Well, and it's like if turning into Monkey Man wasn't going too far, what about turning into the worm? Like,
they're going to have to explain.
He backed off just because of that.
Things.
Like,
he was like, ooh, I don't like the worm guy thing.
Yeah. He's like, the worm guy's ugly. I
don't like the worm guy. Like, you only turned into 2 things.
Only 2 things, bro. And none of it was religious in nature, so I'm not really sure what all of that religious stuff had to do with anything.
Because
and the schizophrenics and
that shit.
But this is how it was written, you said, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know. I need to read. I should probably read. I told you I just couldn't find a cover that I liked.
Oh yes.
But yeah, like that. Like, oh, the power of love and that crazy, crazy dick. That's all it takes to get by in this world.
Because she pulled him out of the whirlpool. But like if she had left him, he might have like found the truth about
I know. He probably could have
life,
broken
the universe,
through.
and everything.
But then he could never tell anybody about it.
No, he'd become part of everything.
You'd have a little Dr. Jessup in you.
When like you telling me that in another 4 to 7 years, this man, when he hits his midlife crisis, ain't gonna do this bullshit all over again. I know,
like he's not even old enough for this.
He's
shit.
only like 35,
and he's got
32.
like one of those beautiful minds. So,
yeah,
like this is gonna happen.
He's gonna get bored with her pussy again,
and then he's gonna find something else to be fucking obsessed with.
He's gonna find a little stash of that fucking hallucinogen somewhere
I remember
he forgot
this
about.
Shit. Woo! I'm gonna go trip balls in the basement. and fucking get it off with God again.
Totally. So I told you, listener Nico from New Zealand.
This is her movie.
I posted to our Discord that we were doing this movie, and she replied. First, I'm going to read her response, and then I'm going to read what she sent me to read. So it said, first there's like 8 emojis or 9 emojis. There's like a flaming heart and heart eyes and a scream face and a cry face and flames and a surprise face.
So much emotion.
And this is all in caps. OMFG, you are finally doing my movie. It's been so long that you probably forgot that this is my movie that I have been requesting for years. I'm so happy. This is the best day of my life. And I was like, I totally did forget that was your movie. No recollection.
I only said that because you told me about this earlier, about how, it's because it's her movie.
Yeah. And so I told her, well, if you have any commentary, send it because we'll be recording tomorrow. Yeah. So here is the message that I got from
Tell me
Nico.
about it, stud.
Patty Chayefsky, born 1923, only ever wrote one novel, Altered States, 1978. But he was a 3-time Academy Award winner. He's the only person to have won 3 solo Academy Awards for writing both adapted and original screenplays. It's the novel that sits on my bedside table. I found the film and the imagery quite influential to my pseudo-religious research for making fine arts installations at uni. I don't like the part when he's a monkey man at the zoo. The rest of the movie I love. That editing is superb. All of the calls to the Book of Revelation, the cross, the many-eyed sheep, and Gnosticism and primeval knowledge in the trip scenes is so spectacular. My fave part is when they turn to sand and blow away like the Sphinx Gate in the Neverending Story. I rewatched tonight. So there you go. A little extra info from Nico.
Have you seen The Devils?
Right?
That's what, have you seen? If you haven't seen The Devils, you should see that one too, because if you like the religious whatever with, it's got Oliver Reed and Vanessa Redgrave, and she plays like she's a nun, but she got a little crick in her neck.
Okay.
And she stands around like this all the time.
She looks like she's holding the phone back in the
she
day.
Does. She looks like she's holding the phone. She can't drop it, or else it will her soul will be damned to hell. But then Oliver Reed is somehow like this. He gets her hot. He's like a priest that gets her hot.
Is he drunk?
Probably, but they don't go into that as a character. But
it's just
how
most
he is. Likely he was drunk in doing this. But she has all these religious visions like the ones that you would expect. So if you haven't seen that, you should.
So yeah, that was, I don't know, Altered States, the only thing it doomed me to do was to have those images.
Yeah.
The worm man and a lot of the staticky and also the religious scene type of stuff. Right. But it didn't make anything bad happen. It's just that it doomed me to have those things come up randomly in my mind where I'll see the weird.
It also made me think, I know it's not even close to the same thing, but it also made me think of Starman because of the little neon graphics.
I haven't watched that one in a really long time.
And shit. Is that Jeff Bridges? Who's that?
I think so. Is the Starman? Yeah, I think so.
Starman.
I believe so. Oh, so let's tell them about the mail we got.
Oh, God, yes. We got this mail. It's fantastic.
Listener Zach sent us several copies of the Weekly World News, y'all.
2001 and 2002.
We've got several issues.
Let me just tell you. I have all of the horoscopes for 2002, so if you want to place any bets. Leaping turtles invade the U.S. Mini mermaid found in tuna sandwich.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
I know. You want one.
I do. Is it like a seaweed?
Bill catches Hillary with space alien.
Oh.
Help us find Batboy. Half man, half creature is still on the run. Batboy begged Santa Claus. He said he didn't find any Batboy, but Batboy's in all of these.
But he wasn't the main. It wasn't the one, where he was like the main one.
Batboy training the elite forces.
Oh, shit. Where's Batboy now?
This just in, you guys. Missing fat man in Florida.
But yeah, Zach had said he was sending something, and all he said is that it was geared at Tessa, and it was something for her to read on the shitter. And she was like, "What the fuck? Do I talk about being on the shitter all the time?"
I know, but you know what?
It's exactly.
There was a time
that was exactly
where this is exactly what was on the back of my toilet.
Yep.
And I read all of these on the shitter.
Yep.
So thank you, Zach.
Yes, we appreciate it.
No, let me throw it on the ground.
me show you how much I love it by throwing it on the ground.
My grip is not what it used to be.
So that concludes our January, our first themed month of the year.
Yes.
And I believe next month is Fantasy February.
Fantasy.
So we'll get into some fantasy stuff. Maybe it's not your fantasy, but it
might
fantasy.
be ours. I don't know.
Or
we'll
maybe
see. Fantasy means a lot of things, so we got some things for you.
Yep. So until next week.
We'll talk at you next time.
Later, Doomers.
Doomers.